Ladies and gentlemen, there is greatness inside you. There is purpose in your existence. There are gifts, talents, and ideas within you that were never meant to fade or die unused. But whether we like it or not, success does not just depend on what we do. It also depends on what we refuse to tolerate. There are enemies of success, hidden, subtle, disguised. And if we do not recognize them, they will rob us of the future that was meant to be ours. So today, stay with me, not halfway, not until the middle, but until the end, because one sentence in the next few minutes may become the breakthrough that changes everything for you. Enemy high one and ain fear of failure. Fear has stopped more dreams than failure ever has. Failure is not fatal. Failure is not final. Failure is a teacher. But fear locks the door before you ever get started. The enemy whispers, "What if you fail?" But the truth responds, "What if you succeed beyond anything you ever imagined?" Courage isn't the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. Enemy A to I excuses and blame. Many people have potential, but potential means nothing if excuses are stronger than discipline. The moment we blame circumstances, people, or timing, we hand our power to something outside ourselves. Success begins the moment you say, "If it is to be, it begins with me." Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when life becomes easier, but now. Enemy behind laziness and lack of discipline. Dreams require work. Goals require sacrifice. Destinies require daily decisions. There is no shortcut to mastery, no fast track to greatness. Discipline is sometimes painful in the moment, but regret is far more painful in the end. Greatness is built in the unseen hours when no one watches, no one applauds, and no one congratulates you. Enemy way for negative relationships. Some people build you. Some people drain you. Some people add fire to your spirit. Others drown your hope with doubt. Be wise about who has access to your mind, your time, your energy, and your heart. The right people will push you to become better. The wrong people will convince you to remain the same. Enemy self-doubt and limiting beliefs. Sometimes the greatest battle is not outside, it is inside. It is the war between the voice of insecurity and the voice of identity. You were made with purpose. You were made with ability. You were made to grow, lead, and influence. Success begins when you refuse to believe the lie that says you are not enough. Closing. Today, you have a choice. Allow these enemies to continue ruling your life or rise and overcome them. Your future is not waiting for permission. Your calling is not waiting for the perfect moment. Your destiny is waiting for your decision. So stand strong, move forward, and never ever stop becoming who you were created to be. Your success is not ahead of you. It is within you. Fear, it's a quiet enemy. It doesn't shout. It doesn't storm in with volume or violence. It whispers, it speaks in subtle tones, it asks questions not to guide you, but to paralyze you. And if we are honest, many of the greatest dreams ever birthed in a human heart have died, not because they were impossible, but because fear said, "Don't even try." Maybe you've heard that voice. What if you fail? What will people think? What if you're not good enough? Fear always shows you the worst-case scenario. It magnifies the risk and hides the reward. It exaggerates your weaknesses and blinds you to your potential. Fear wants you comfortable, predictable, and silent. It would rather see you settled than growing, safe than soaring, surviving rather than succeeding. But hear me, failure is not your enemy. Fear of failure is. Some people never apply for the job they want because fear says someone better will get it. Some never begin the business burning inside their spirit because fear whispers, "You'll lose everything." Some never share their talent, their voice, their idea because fear suggests no one will care. And yet the deepest pain in life is not failure. It's looking back and realizing you never even tried. Success has a price, and one part of that price is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. No, sometimes courage is trembling hands, a racing heart, and a whisper to yourself, "I will move forward anyway." Every hero, every leader, every achiever, every history maker felt fear at some point. The difference is not that they never felt afraid. The difference is that fear did not get to make their decisions. Fear wants to keep you small because it knows what you could become if you ever believed in yourself fully. And maybe, just maybe, the thing you are afraid of isn't a warning. It's a sign that something powerful is waiting beyond that wall of uncertainty, a sign that growth is about to happen, a sign that destiny is closer than you think. But fear won't step aside just because you're tired of being stuck. You have to confront it. You have to speak louder than it. You have to choose purpose over panic, calling over comfort, impact over intimidation. Ask yourself right now, what would I attempt if I knew I could not fail? What conversation would you start? What dream would you activate? What goal would you pursue? Because somewhere within you is the strength to push through. Somewhere in you is a fire stronger than fear. Somewhere deep in your being is a voice that says, I was made for more. And when that voice becomes louder than fear, everything changes. The moment you stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if I succeed? That is the moment fear loses its power. You are capable. You are equipped. You are called. Fear may follow you, but it does not have to lead you. Excuses, they are comfortable. They sound reasonable. They feel safe. And yet, excuses are one of the most subtle thieves of destiny. They wrap themselves in justification. They disguise themselves as logic. They present themselves as protection. But at their core, excuses are nothing more than permission slips we hand ourselves to remain exactly where we are. Maybe you've heard these phrases. I'm too young. I'm too old. I don't have the right education. I don't have the right connections. It's just not the right time. And on the surface, they seem harmless, just sentences. But every excuse is a wall built between you and your future. Every time you say, I can't, when the truth is, I won't, you strengthen that wall. Blame walks right beside excuses. Blame says, it's not my fault. Blame points outward instead of inward. Blame hands authority to someone else and announces they control my future, not me. But hear this, you cannot change what you refuse to take responsibility for. When you blame the economy, you surrender potential. When you blame your past, you lock your future. When you blame people, you give them the steering wheel of your life. Responsibility is not a burden, it is power. The moment you say, this is my life, and I will own my decisions, everything shifts. Some people are waiting for motivation. Some are waiting for clarity. Some are waiting for permission. But destiny does not come to those who wait. It comes to those who move. You don't need the perfect start. You just need to start. Excuses love comfort. They love familiarity. They love routine. But growth lives on the other side of discomfort. Breakthrough lives beyond hesitation. Progress demands action, not explanations. Ask yourself, are you defending your potential or defending your limitations? Because every excuse protects something, but rarely something good. Sometimes excuses protect fear. Sometimes they protect laziness. Sometimes they protect insecurity. Sometimes they protect the comfort zone that is slowly suffocating your calling. Instead of saying, I can't, ask, how can I? Instead of saying, Samadeh, declare today. Instead of saying, they stopped me, decide, nothing and no one will hold me back. There is strength in responsibility. There is courage in ownership. There is freedom in saying, no more excuses. Your greatest progress will not begin when circumstances change. It will begin when your mindset changes. So take a moment and look at your dream, not through the eyes of fear or convenience, but through the eyes of truth. The world is full of people who say, I could have, I should have, I almost did. Don't join them. Be the one who says, I committed, I acted, and I became. Excuses destroy possibilities. Responsibility builds futures. And right now, your future is waiting for a decision, not another explanation. Oh, and responsibility builds futures. But even when someone stops blaming and stops making excuses, there is another enemy that quietly attacks progress, one so subtle that many don't even recognize it until their dreams begin to fade. It doesn't scream. It doesn't fight. It simply convinces you to settle, and that enemy is laziness wrapped in a lack of discipline. Laziness doesn't always look like doing nothing. Sometimes it looks like scrolling endlessly. Sometimes it looks like staying busy with everything except what actually matters. Sometimes it looks like planning, dreaming, and imagining, but never committing, never executing, never following through. You know what the dream is. You know what the goal is. You know what steps you need to take. But laziness whispers, later. Later becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next year. And one day, if you're not careful, you wake up and realize the future you wanted is now trapped in the past you wasted. Discipline is the opposite. Discipline says, do it even when you don't feel like it. Discipline isn't excitement. It's consistency. Discipline doesn't ask, am I motivated? It commands, stay committed. There are people who had less talent than you, less opportunity than you, fewer resources than you, but they succeeded because discipline carried them where motivation could not. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the fire. Sometimes the greatest battle you will ever fight is between what you want now and what you want most. The easy choice feels good in the moment, but the right choice feels good for a lifetime. Success requires sacrifice. It may cost sleep, comfort, entertainment, or convenience, but the reward, purpose, progress, and fulfillment far outweighs the cost. Ask yourself, are you treating your dream like a wish or like an assignment? Because dreams demand action, goals require structure, growth needs routine. If you only work when you feel inspired, you'll stay inconsistent. But when you build habits that support your purpose, success becomes inevitable. Every great accomplishment is built one ordinary day at a time, not in bursts of intensity, but in daily obedience to the process. You don't transform your life overnight. You transform your habits, and they transform your life. Maybe you've started before and stopped. Maybe discipline has slipped through your fingers more than once. But hear this, the fact that you're listening right now means the desire to grow is still alive in you. And where desire still exists, discipline can follow. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be persistent. You don't have to run. You just have to refuse to quit. Small, consistent steps done daily will do more for you than massive effort done occasionally. Laziness wants you comfortable, but destiny requires you disciplined. Comfort may feel good today, but discipline will create the tomorrow you've prayed for. Oh, and discipline will create the tomorrow you've prayed for. But even with determination, even with commitment, even with effort, there is another force that can either lift you higher or pull you backward. And that force is the people you choose to allow into your life. Not everyone around you is assigned to your destiny. Not everyone walking beside you is walking in the same direction. Some relationships build momentum, others create resistance. Some people speak life, others drain it. Some challenge you to grow, others convince you to shrink. There are people who will cheer when you rise, and there are people who will become uncomfortable the moment you grow beyond their expectations of you. Sometimes the greatest opposition to your future will come from voices that sound familiar. Negative relationships don't always arrive as enemies. Sometimes they come disguised as comfort, as history, or as loyalty. But you must ask yourself, does this person ignite my purpose or distract me from it? Do they help me become stronger or do they weaken my confidence? Do they see my potential or do they constantly remind me of my limitations? Your future deserves people who challenge you, not people who chain you. It deserves voices that say, you can, not voices that insist, you're dreaming too big. Some people only know how to talk about gossip, drama, and complaints. And if you surround yourself with that atmosphere long enough, your spirit will begin to shrink to match it. But surround yourself with thinkers, builders, dreamers, and believers. And suddenly your vision expands. Your courage grows. Your expectations rise. You were not created to stay small just because someone else is afraid of big thinking. And here, this letting go of negative relationships does not mean hatred. It means alignment. It means choosing to protect your purpose. It means refusing to allow someone's insecurity to determine your obedience to the calling on your life. Sometimes walking away is not rejection, it's direction. Sometimes distance is necessary for development. Sometimes separation is required before elevation. There will be moments when you must make a difficult choice. Remain loyal to someone's comfort or remain committed to your calling. And only one of those choices leads to growth. Surround yourself with people who tell you the truth, not just what you want to hear. Surround yourself with people who celebrate effort, progress, and purpose, not just success. Surround yourself with people who see the greatness inside you even before you do. Because the voices you listen to eventually become the thoughts you believe, and the thoughts you believe eventually become the direction of your life. Choose relationships that sharpen you, not relationships that silence you. Choose people who pull the best out of you, not the ones who drag the old version of you back into place. Your destiny requires strength, clarity, wisdom, and sometimes distance. Because even after you separate from negative influences, there is still one voice you cannot walk away from, the voice inside your own mind, and often that voice becomes the greatest enemy of success, not circumstance, not opposition, not lack of opportunity, but the quiet, relentless whisper of self-doubt. Self-doubt is subtle. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in a tone that sounds like caution, humility, or realism. But deep beneath those disguises, there is a message. You're not enough, not smart enough, not qualified enough, not worthy enough, not capable enough. And if you listen to that voice long enough, it will convince you to shrink your dream until it fits your fear. There are people with incredible talent, yet they never step forward because they question their worth. There are people with brilliant ideas, yet they never begin because they question their ability. There are people called to make an impact, yet they remain silent because they believe someone else is more deserving. But hear this carefully. Growth begins the moment you stop agreeing with the lies that limit you. You were not created to live small. You were not designed to stay hidden. There is greatness in you, not arrogance, not ego, but God-given potential waiting to be activated. Every time self-doubt says, you can't, something inside you must rise and respond, watch me. Self-doubt feeds on comparison. When you compare your beginning to someone else's middle or someone else's highlight reel, insecurity grows. But success is not about being better than someone else. It's about becoming the best version of you. Self-doubt also grows when you mistake past failure for permanent identity. You may have failed at something, but that does not make you a failure. You may have fallen, but that does not define your future. Every champion knows what defeat feels like, but they also know how to rise again. Confidence is not built in a moment. It is built through repeated acts of courage. Every time you do what fear says you can't do, confidence grows. Every time you push past hesitation, strength develops. Every time you choose progress over perfection, you take another step toward the life you were meant to live. Ask yourself, what dream have I talked myself out of? What goal have I postponed because I didn't feel ready? What talent have I hidden because I was afraid it wasn't enough? The truth is, you don't need permission to start. You don't need the approval of everyone around you. You don't need every detail figured out. You simply need to believe that you were created with purpose, and then take the next step. Self-doubt may whisper, but purpose roars. The moment you stop listening to the voice that limits you and start listening to the voice that calls you higher, everything begins to change. Because success starts inside long before it shows outside.